Good evening. I'm Kevin Johnson, Dean of UC Davis School of Law. I want to welcome everybody to Celebrating King Hall. Thanks for joining us. Now, we were all set to have this event in March, but the pandemic, like it's changed so many things, changed all of our plans. But I'm still glad that we were able to get together tonight virtually to celebrate. And I think there's an awful lot to celebrate. Over the last year, we've seen the strength of the King Hall community. It's been on full display this year. The faculty spent the summer honing their virtual teaching skills, many of them, including myself, not knowing what Zoom was just a few months ago. Because of their dedication and that of our students and staff, we maintained our standard of excellent instruction. And I want to thank everybody for that. I also want to thank our donors. They've given generously to our Student Emergency Fund. They helped us raise a record-breaking $6.3 million last year. Thank you all. Now, we continue to enhance King Hall. We added a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Fellow, Alexis Elston, to Student Affairs. In response to the summer protests, UC Davis launched a Racial Justice Speaker Series, and recently National Jurist magazine named us as one of the top 3 law schools for racial justice. Now, our faculty are part of the national conversation on many pressing issues. Our 2020 Distinguished Teaching Award winner, Lisa Pruitt, who we will honor tonight, draws much needed attention to issues affecting rural America, including the shortage of lawyers. Professor Ash Bhagwat, author of a new book, Our Democratic First Amendment, is commented for the media on the 2020 election. Our in-house treason expert, and I think we're the only law school in the country with an in-house treason expert, Carlton Larson, just put out his 2nd book on treason. And Elizabeth Joe's podcast, What Trump Can Teach Us About Con Law, continues to review constitutional law lessons from President Trump's daily actions. Now, our faculty members are teachers, scholars, and law reformers. This year, Professors Raquel Aldana and Courtney Jocelyn were elected to the American Law Institute. Several faculty members, as well as students, participated in the 2020 elections. And I'd like to take a moment to again congratulate Professor Bhagwat, Professors Kareem Benoon, and Bill Dodge on their appointments to endowed chairs. And we have been delighted to welcome new faculty Eric Fish and Alix Rogers, who will start teaching in January. I do want to mention a bit of bad news. Just a few weeks ago, we lost a longtime faculty member, Leslie Kurtz. She was a longtime part of the King Hall community and contributed so much to so many for so long. It's very sad to see her go. Now, our current 1L class is exceptionally diverse and accomplished. 55% are students of color, 70% are women. And although the fall semester began and will end remotely, our student life remains vibrant. Student organizations are active. Students still have access to King Hall. And we even allowed some alums to take the bar exam, the first online bar exam in King Hall. We also honor the students tonight. In this year, we're going to hear from Joanna Peraza Lizarraga, class of 2021. Joanna holds a BA from University of Nevada, Reno. While at King Hall, she's worked and helped immigrants at the Immigration Law Clinic. She served as an extern for a Nevada Supreme Court justice. She was a law clerk for the California Rural Legal Assistance Foundation, and she also worked as my research assistant. She's the recipient of the Satry Family Scholarship and the Martin Luther King Jr. Public Interest Scholarship. Please welcome Joanna Peraza.
Hi, before I begin, I would like to thank Dean Johnson and those who organized Celebrating King Hall. It is an honor for me to be talking in front of you guys, even if it's remotely, and I also hope that everyone is doing well and staying safe. These are hard times, so we will get through them together. Today, I am here to tell you a story about scholarships and why they are life-changing. Once upon a time, I was the senior at the University of Nevada, Reno, who applied to King Hall as an early decision student. On the last day to see if I had been admitted, I get this email with the headline, "Congratulations, you're admitted to UC Davis School of Law." That day was one of the happiest days of my life. My mom, who I've seen her cry maybe 4 times in my life, hugged me so hard that we both started crying. My brother, who like any other teenager tries to act cool, actually joined us when he heard us screaming from my parents' room. I remember calling my dad at work, and all I could say is, I got in, I got in. And even though he was busy at work, you could hear the ruckus of the restaurant that he works in, the plates, the Mexican music playing in the background, the ding of the bell to say the order was up, but nonetheless took the time to scream, probably at some customer or coworker, she got in, she got in. I am so proud of you. You worked so hard and you made it. But had I really made it? As someone who's very planned and tends to be in the more practical side of things at times, the impeding cost of attendance hit me maybe 5 minutes after doing a happy dance. For those who graduated a little while ago, I will ask you kindly to not mention how much law school was back in the day, because you will make us cry. My dream of becoming a lawyer had a price tag. As a resident of Nevada, my dream was going to cost me around $80,000 a year. 1 year, $80,000. I asked my mom, ¿y ahora cómo le vamos a hacer? And now what are we going to do? My mom said, we will figure it out because your education is worth it. And no one can really take that away from you. I had work as a server during undergrad and saved here and there to help mitigate some cost of law school, but I didn't make anywhere near what 1 year of law school was going to be. Yet today I'm here in front of you to tell you that scholarships are one of the most important gifts you can give future generations. I would not be here today if it wasn't for them. I'm achieving my dream of becoming an immigration lawyer, of being part of one of the most prestigious immigration law clinics in the nation, and attending my top school, the school named after Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. There's a difference between who I am now and who I was when I accepted that letter, with no possibilities of making this dream come true. I know I'm one person, but my classmates have had similar experiences, and there are many folks back home who aren't that different from me, that have an acceptance letter in their hand and a constant reminder saying, hey, at least you tried. If it wasn't for the support that King Hall has provided me, I would be part of that group. I would still be home with that acceptance letter. I am grateful to be here today, and I hope one day I am in your seats trying to figure out a way to help our future generations of law students and help them feel more at ease when they receive that life-changing letter. I want to finalize by thanking all the donors for their tremendous support and for allowing a little Latina girl achieve her dreams, and also allowing my parents to achieve theirs. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. We're lucky as heck to have you as a student at UC Davis School of Law. Tonight, we honor the career of Professor Lisa Pruitt. Martin Luther King Jr. Professor of Law, she joined the faculty in 1999. She has taught torts, law and rural livelihoods, feminist jurisprudence, critical race theory, and sociology of the legal profession. Professor Pruitt holds a JD from the University of Arkansas School of Law and a PhD in laws from the University of London. She clerked for the Honorable Morris Shepard Arnold of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Eighth Circuit. And before coming to Davis, Professor Pruitt worked abroad for almost a decade in a variety of legal settings. Her role in the first successful prosecution of rape as a war crime, while working as a gender consultant for the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, is chronicled in the documentary, The Uncondemned. Now, two of Professor Pruitt's students, one current student at UC Davis School of Law and one an alum, are here to introduce Professor Pruitt. Wong Pham, a current 3L, and Megan Nyes, a member of the class of 2008.
Thank you, Dean Johnson. Good evening, everyone. I want to take you back to January 2019, when I received my directions for the first day of tort. Please come to class on Wednesday prepared to tell me something distinctive about yourself to help me remember you. Little did Professor Pruitt know, the class of 2021 loves sharing distinctive things about ourselves. So on that fateful first day, we went on and on and on, and we got through about 40 people out of 70. Yet, One by one, Professor Pruitt took the time to have all students share something distinctive about themselves. And let's just say we've learned a lot about each other. There were dancers, musicians, singers, mushroom likers and haters, bakers, climbers, and someone who won their high school sit-ups competition with over 600 sit-ups. Not sure I can even count to 600. The beauty in all this, Professor Pruitt facilitated the building of a close-knit community of students who didn't just see each other every day, but began having conversations with one another about something other than law school. Whether she knew it or not, she created a classroom environment for us to excel and feel safe in. Most of all, this activity values the identities of students who typically are marginalized in the classroom by providing a space where they can share a part of their story, something that typically doesn't happen in law school. Beyond her ability to utilize activities like these, it was always her responsiveness to students that struck me as exceptional. In one instance, our class discussed a case which prompted her to introduce critical race theory, yes, into a 1L torts class. In the case, a Black man who worked for NASA was at a hotel conference when he was called the N-word and his lunch plate was snatched from him under the assumption that he couldn't possibly be a guest there. The legal question of what would offend a reasonable sense of personal dignity came up, and an extremely rich conversation regarding the intersection of race and torts ensued. Following this discussion, Professor Pruitt spent the beginning of next class introducing critical race theory to students, unplanned, not on syllabus, but so valuable to our learning experience. It is this kind of intentionality, commitment, and dedication to teaching that truly makes Professor Pruitt a stellar educator. As a first-generation student whose parents decided to give him a full Vietnamese name, it has always been difficult navigating spaces in our country where my name is continually foreign. While I have embraced this challenge through the years, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you how Professor Pruitt had the most difficult time pronouncing my name. Every time I spoke in class during the first half of the semester, there was this exchange. Oh gosh, I don't want to mess it up. How do you say your name again? No worries, it's Huang, like Wang, and then you just say it fast. Okay, Huang, not quite, but that's okay. Darn it. In early March 2019, it literally was like that every single time. In early March 2019, I found a message in my inbox from Professor Pruitt sharing an article titled America, Say My Name, which challenged notions of traditional American names. In her words, she wrote, I thought of you in my struggle to pronounce your name as you pronounce it when I saw this. I am sincerely trying. Anyway, thought this piece was powerful. This email subsequently turned into an invitation for my wife and I to have dinner with her and her son, William, at her house over spring break. It was during this time when she really got to practice saying my name and has yet to incorrectly say it again. Let me give her one of these. More importantly, she also engaged my wife and I in a wonderful, lengthy discussion regarding our work, career aspirations, Arkansas, where my wife's family is from, and we even plotted theories on how we can unite political divisions in our country. From her masterful teaching practices to her unyielding responsiveness to students, to her genuine care and support for all those around her, Professor Pruitt is not just a brilliant teacher, but a wonderful human being. There is an endless amount we can learn from her, and lucky for us, she can be found in a King Hall classroom near you. Zoom classroom, that is, for now. Thank you so much for all that you do, Professor Pruitt. I want to now introduce Megan Nyes.
Good evening. When I think back to my time at King Hall, I firmly believe I had a great experience largely because of Professor Pruitt. I was a reserved and cautious student who wondered many times if I was just too quiet to be an attorney. I signed up for Professor Pruitt's seminar about the sociology of the legal profession because it sounded interesting and I wanted a smaller class. But I found something I wasn't expecting. I was immediately drawn to Professor Pruitt's warm and engaging teaching style. And to this day, I will add, whenever I talk to Professor Pruitt, I'm always very comforted by her Southern accent. There's just something about it that makes me immediately feel at ease. From Professor Pruitt's seminar class, it was evident that she loved to teach. She genuinely valued what students had to say, and she inspired all of us to contribute to class discussions. Moreover, Professor Pruitt made time during and outside of office hours to talk about class readings, research papers, or anything else. Because of her welcoming presence, Professor Pruitt reaffirmed for me and for so many others that there is a place for all of us in the legal world. For alumni, Professor Pruitt has been an extraordinary mentor. She is never too busy to answer the phone to talk about a career move, and she keeps in regular contact with dozens of alumni. As part of our nomination, we included letters from 27 students and alumni who attested to Professor Pruitt's exemplary teaching abilities and mentorship support. Many alumni reflected that Professor Pruitt is the only professor from law school and college with whom they regularly keep in touch. As one graduate from the class of 2006 wrote, for Professor Pruitt, graduation does not mean that her job as an educator and mentor has ended. This has been true for me. In 2013, I had just returned to Northern California after a year of clerking and traveling overseas. I was 5 years out of law school, but I was unsure of so many things. Should I follow my heart into public service? Should I get more experience in the private sector? Should I stay in California? Should I move to the East Coast? There are no lawyers in my family, and Professor Pruitt was the only attorney that I knew with whom I felt comfortable discussing some of these big life questions. When I emailed her to let her know I was back in Northern California, she invited me for lunch, and I started laying out all of my worries to her, feeling very stuck. Professor Pruitt listened quietly and carefully, and then she gave the advice that every apprehensive young person and every lawyer needs to hear. She said, "It's important to be thoughtful and cautious, but you also need to live your life." Professor Pruitt shows us through her generosity as a teacher and mentor to live our lives in an authentic and fearless way. I'm grateful to know her and for her continued support and kindness. It is my great honor to introduce my mentor and friend, Professor Lisa Pruitt, the 2020 winner of King Hall's Distinguished Teaching Award. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Megan and Wang, and all the other students and alums who were part of this nomination. I have written and rewritten what I would say this evening, and I have to some extent let myself off the hook about being inspirational, because it seems impossible to be inspirational on Zoom. But I am very moved by the very different stories that you told, and yet I'm also struck by the similarities of your stories, because I think that the thing that jumped out at me from reading the dossier of supporting letters that you two compiled is the importance of relationships to teaching. As with so many other things in life, relationships are what really matter and what really make teaching and so many other aspects of our lives work. So I'm very grateful for so many relationships with students and alums, because they have enriched my life more than I could have imagined when I began this career 21 years ago. There are two other things I want to highlight about teaching that have been foremost of mind as I've read the letters and heard what you had to say tonight, and also compiled the photos for the slideshow. Thank you so much to External Relations for letting me exceed the suggested limit of, I think, 8 photos, 6 or 8. I think I came up with 30. But everyone who knows me knows how I love photos. And it was a wonderful walk down memory lane for me to select those photos and put them together, and to remember again all these amazing relationships that I've had the opportunity to form. And it was also a reminder of how much I've learned from my students, right? We think of the professor-student relationship perhaps as one where the professor is doling out knowledge. But when I think about my career as a professor, I'm really overwhelmed with all of the things that I've learned from my students. And they sort of admittedly range from the ridiculous to the sublime. But it's been an incredibly enriching journey in that way too. And the last thing that I was struck by in reading the letters and in putting together the photos is just how much fun I've had during this time. It's really been a blast. Yes, many wine tasting trips, the many dinners, the many hot topics in torts projects, the many artistic representation of a tort project. I noticed a student, a former student, an alum on the Zoom tonight, who tempted me. Well, she was going to light a torch in the torts classroom, and she was waiting to see if I would stop her. So that was one of the more interesting artistic representation of a tort contest events over the years. But it's all been so much fun, and we did manage to stay safe. So in spite of the fire-eating student. The other thing I want to say is just how inspiring it is to get to be an educator at King Hall. There have been so many times over the years when I have felt that I was becoming cynical about the way the world worked. And then I would meet a fresh batch of students, and I would learn about their dreams. And I would realize that, yes, we really can do this. We really can change the world, because we have the endless energy of youth and idealism and hard work that you all just keep bringing to this enterprise of social justice. So I thank you for that as much as for anything. It struck me this afternoon as I was putting some comments to paper that students are like children, of course, in many ways, in that, but I will just point out that you age us even as you keep us young. And so I am very, very grateful for that. There are so many people, in addition to the students, who I would like to thank for supporting me during this journey. And one of the very first who comes to mind is Margaret Johns, who is also being honored tonight. Margaret has been my teaching mentor really since I arrived at King Hall in 1999, and she is a very, very, very dear friend. She has taught me patience, and her optimism and her wisdom have meant the world to me and have really kept me going at times. I want to thank the extraordinary and energetic student deans that I've had the pleasure to work with. Hollis Colwyn for many years, and more recently, Emily Scivoletto. The professors simply could not do what we do without your support, and all that you do for our students, which is really extraordinary. I want to thank Chris Ide Don and the whole academic support team when it comes to educating our students, preparing them for the profession, preparing them to pass the bar exam. Our team is unparalleled, and I'm so delighted to see former tutors from my torts class on the call tonight. I'm really delighted that Wang is going to be my torts tutor in the spring. So I'm grateful so much to the academic support team. I also want to acknowledge other institutions on campus who have made me a better teacher, and who offer services to all of us. And those include the University Writing Program, who have helped me shape writing assignments and design grading rubrics and achieve greater clarity in terms of how I communicate with students and give them feedback on writing. What is now the Center for Educational Effectiveness, and I believe was the Teaching Resource Center when I first came to campus, and has been through a couple of iterations in between, have been extraordinarily supportive. Again, equipping me to innovate in the classroom, to try new things. And that's been enormously supportive. I'm grateful to the University Honors Program, who drew me into teaching undergrads more than a decade ago, which has also been extremely fulfilling. And again, the people in the University Honors Program have valued creativity and innovation in teaching, and that has permitted me to also bring that innovation to the law school. Last but certainly not least, I want to thank my family, my husband David and my son William, for their support of my career, and the many evenings that I've spent at the law school doing things with students and away from them. And I also want to thank my family of origin, my mother, Thelma Pruitt, and my sister, Sheila Pruitt. There've already been a couple of references to Arkansas tonight and my Southern accent. So I want to acknowledge my Southern roots. And it's interesting, Joanna, because in some ways your story that you led this evening with is in some ways similar to my own. And my mother, who did not have an opportunity to pursue formal education, knew as a young mother that what she had to do for her daughters was to ensure that they did have the opportunity for formal education. And she made so many sacrifices for my sister and me so that we could get our bachelor's degrees, so that I could go on to law school and eventually to get my PhD. So her commitment to education has inspired me enormously, and I'm very, very grateful for the sacrifices that she made. I'm grateful also for the sacrifices that my sister made, blazing her own trail as a first-generation student just the year before me. I'm currently teaching this semester a seminar to first-generation students at the law school, and we were talking just last week about the very concrete ways in which our families support us. And so whether you're first gen or not, we want you to know, parents out there everywhere, that we couldn't have done what we're doing without you. So I will close with that and just say thank you for this award. It means as much to me as anything that I have ever achieved professionally, and I will always remember it and be grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Pruitt. Congratulations again on the award, and we're very lucky to have you at UC Davis School of Law. And those heartfelt remarks will not be soon forgotten, that's for sure. This year, our alumni board introduced the Rising Star Alumnus Award, which recognizes outstanding alums who graduated in the last 15 years. Rodrigo Guevara, class of 2009, is our inaugural recipient of this award. He founded Abogado LLP, a San Diego law firm that specializes in assisting low-wage workers in underserved communities. He is past president of the San Diego La Raza Lawyers Association. Congratulations, Rodrigo. Congratulations.
Thank you, Dean Johnson.
Now it's my pleasure to introduce our 2020 Distinguished Alumni Award recipient, UC Davis Law Professor Merida, Margaret Johns. After graduating from King Hall, she couldn't get enough and she returned to teach. She taught at King Hall for nearly 4 decades. She directed the Legal Research and Writing Program. She founded our Civil Rights Clinic, and she helped establish the Schwartz-Levy Inn of Court. Professor Johns represents the very best of King Hall. Welcome, Professor Johns.
Thank you, Kevin. First, I want to thank the Alumni Board because I'm really honored to be the Alumni of the Year. Having been here for so long, I know how wonderful our alumni are, and there's so many alumni that are more worthy than me. And so it's a huge honor to be recognized. I also want to congratulate Lisa and Rodrigo. I don't know Rodrigo, unfortunately. He seems wonderful. He's off on a good start and he has such promise. I wish I did know him, but I don't. I do know Lisa pretty well because it was my good fortune to be an experienced torts teacher when Lisa first came. And so we worked together a little bit to try to, work torts together. And I have never known anybody who worked so hard to become a good teacher. She was so careful. She was so meticulous. She was so responsible and diligent. She read her faculty evaluations. I read her faculty evaluations. She wanted critiques of her faculty evaluations. She was the most diligent new teacher I've ever known. And she's a great teacher. I mean, one of the things about teaching that I think a lot of people don't understand is it's a whole lot of fun. I mean, it's wonderful, but it is harder than you would ever imagine. And Lisa took on the work and took on the fun, and she's just been spectacular. Also, there were some comments about her research, but her research has informed her teaching. And so it's, there's teaching, research, and service is what the university always tells you that your job is. But Lisa did them all spectacularly. And her research in ruralism has been focused on the difficulties of rural life, like access to legal services, access to medical care, access to justice in any reasonable way, the problem of drug addiction in rural areas. So her work has been informative in terms of her teaching. So they're not separate, they're one and the same. And on top of that, she's had a spectacular devotion to public service. She's worked a lot in poverty law. She's worked on state bar commissions on poverty law. She's worked on university commissions on poverty law. She's been dedicated in every way you could possibly imagine. So I couldn't be happier that she's recognized tonight for all that good work. In terms of me, I couldn't be more grateful. I loved going to King Hall. I thought law school was the best. I love my classmates. I love my teachers. I thought this was the educational highlight of my life. And so I came back for 38 years. And that was wonderful. I love my students. They were inspiring and fun and dedicated. And like Lisa said, it's easy to get discouraged, but when you have such wonderful students, it's easy to get inspired. My colleagues have been wonderful. The staff is wonderful. Lisa ran through some of those, but even the staff, like in the registrar's office or the administration office or, the academic support people, they work so hard and they're the IT people. I mean, everybody is so great. And then on top of that, this career has let me do a lot of other interesting stuff, including court work. I've worked on a lot of court commissions and pro bono programs. I've chaired pro bono programs for years and founding the Civil Rights Clinic, which was a huge highlight too. So I have to say, I'm so grateful for everything that King Hall enabled me to do. Thank you.
And it is just like Margaret Johns to give remarks when she's receiving an award and talk about how great everybody else is. But that's why we love her so much. Well, that's it for our program tonight. Ordinarily, I would say it's time to go finish off the refreshments, but since we're doing this virtually, I can't really say that. But thanks for being here. And I just want everybody to know that King Hall is alive and well. These are tough times, but we're going to work through them. And with people like Margaret Johns, Lisa Pruitt, Rodrigo Guevara, and everybody, we're going to move forward full speed ahead. But thanks for being here. Now, if you want to see some pictures, I know Professor Pruitt likes pictures. We're going to see some of the round of pictures go through one more time. So hang on as they start. Good night.